I'm Derek, and this is the Precision Rifle Garage Build Series Part 3. In Part 3, we'll be chambering the rifle. Now again, I'm an absolute beginner. This is my first time chambering a rifle. If you're looking for a professional, check out another video. But, if you're looking to see how I do, keep watching. I was talking about thread push-up earlier. So we were, I think, 5'7", 57th thou, over 1 inch before, and we're damn near at nominal because of the push-up. And our recoil log, it just slips over to, like in that. Should squeeze onto that shoulder real nice. So we have our 4-jaw chuck on with some aluminum soft jaws, about 10 inches of barrel sticking out with a steady rest about 2 inches from the end. Our live center end to center the barrel. We have our chuck end of the barrel dialed down to 0 thou runout, looking very good there. And on the chamber end, we have our steady rest on, and we're sitting about a 1/2 thou runout. Now I did this way because again the pass through on my chuck is not big enough to get very close to the chamber end. So therefore I stuck out more to kind of support by the steady rest. However, in hindsight, I could actually probably gotten it closer, reduced the amount of stick out, and relied more on the chuck, but still had the steady rest to back it up. But again, I'm not a professional. So the next thing we're going to do is cut a bevel on the chamber end of the barrel to match the bevel for the bolt head, which is 20 degrees. Initially what we're going to do is we're going to come in with the drill bit to kind of clear some material. Drill bit is obviously a steeper angle. They'll help clear some material, and then we'll come in with a bit on the compound and cut the rest at 20 degrees. Just enough so we make just a nice little neat corner between the thread and the bevel cut. Okay, let's give this a go. So in hindsight, I definitely don't recommend this method. Much rather just come in from a tool bit, start from the beginning. Way too much chatter with this big of a bit. So we have our compound set to 20 degrees. We're going to cautiously come in. So unfortunately, the footage I got was of my hat for these cuts, so we're going to skip ahead. Now, I know how far roughly I've cut just by use of the carriage. However, I kind of want a direct measurement, so I have the bolt closed on the action, and I'm measuring with a couple of feeler blades between the action and recoil lug to check the clearance there. And we have 18 that goes and 22 that does not. So we're somewhere in that range, so probably gonna end up cutting about 21 thousandths here. Alright, just missed that last pass. So we're able to shoulder up there, and our bolt closes. That is a good feeling. See how much clearance we have. I'm curious. Okay, so I just took a piece of paper, kind of shoved it against the face, thread it on. Sorry, piece of masking tape, I should say. Throw our bolt in.
And that's definitely a hard bolt close. So we know that we're fairly close. Again, not very scientific, but I'm taking that as an okay amount of clearance. A little bit of a close-up here. We can see matching that bolt face. Lets it tuck in there real nice like.
So I'm going to start chambering here. I have not indicated off my bore. That's because essentially I can't do anything about it. With a 3-position steady rest, I can't really adjust the barrel that much. And also this is a bare bones build in a small lathe. So we're making do with what we have. So let's see what happens.
Back off a little bit.
As a first timer, figuring out how to hold the reamer was definitely a bit awkward. The wrench was not really working. I gave it a shot. Again, this is a minimal tools build, so obviously a floating reamer holder was out of the question. Just doing this old school held reamer, so we'll see we did something later to fix that.
Okay, so kind of figured out a better method. I saw this method. Essentially, I've taken a scrap piece of aluminum, drilled a hole through, put a tap, and put a screw in, a number 1032. Ground a little flat spot on the body of the reamer. This will allow me to hold the reamer by hand, get a good feel. Obviously, it is enough that if in case it were to grab and spin, it would clear the lathe table. Obviously, I got to be cautious, but this will give me a good feel to know if I'm cutting in too much, and also make it easy to withdraw, clean the tap, etc. So let's give that a go. I've been cutting a little bit, so we'll keep going. We're about 90 RPM. Well lubed. Feed in till I just start feeling it. Right there. And I'm gonna feed in of a third of a hand wheel turn, which is about 30 thousandths. At that point, I got a good load of chips in the reamer, not too full though. So wipe that off, give that a clean, re-lube it, and go again. Just slowly feed in, not in a rush here. There we go, just starting to cut into the very tip of the shoulder now. Fired up my air compressor. I think we'll start using that to kind of clear the chips now that we're cutting into the shoulder.
So chambering is a long process. Essentially, with the reamer, I had to cut 2,150 thousandths at an average of 25 thou per pass. That is about 86 passes, and my cycling was about 1 minute and 20 seconds for each pass. So really at that point, that was about an hour and 40 minutes of just cutting the chamber.
So we're about a third of the way cut, and I noticed it's got a little bit of tool bit wander, so just wanted to measure and see exactly what was going on. So we got the dial indicator set up with the 671 Starrett, just reading inside the major diameter cut groove about here on the reamer. And if we have a look, we're wandering about 3 thou, so that's kind of what I'm feeling. So just something to consider for our accuracy interpretation. Let's set up on the barrel and see where we're sitting on the run of the barrel. Haven't checked it since we've been cutting here for a little bit, so let's check that. And we're set up on the edge of the barrel, and we are about just shy under 1 thou there. It's a little bit of change, not much. One thing that I've noticed as I've been cutting is seems that there's only really a number of flutes that are doing actually all the work. See, in the front it's pretty even, however it comes to the main body. You can see how it material's building up there. Probably just a little bit of deviation in the reamer and the setup, but not too bad. Okay, I'm to the point where I can't extend my tailstock quite long enough to keep going from its fixed position. So I am going to have to set the reamer in, slide it ahead. I'm going to use the carriage as a stop, and then feed it in that way and then back it out. So a little bit more of a process. Okay, so kind of been cutting away here. I have placed a blue paint pen mark on our ways, and I have set a 0 on my hand wheel, and I've locked the carriage down with my Allen bolt, my carriage lock down there. This way the carriage acts as a stop that is consistent for my tailstock, because essentially I'm going to be moving it back and forth for a little bit of test, fitting, and measuring. And I want some repeatability as a stop, so therefore my hand wheel on my tailstock stays accurate as possible.
So at this point, I started to measure from the end of the go gauge to the shoulder. However, this kind of was a bit tricky. The gauge had a little bit of slop in the end of the chamber, and it wasn't quite working out for me. So then I tried a collar made out of an old hose fitting that cut down to a specific dimension and then measured to the end of the go gauge to get a reading that way. However, that still didn't give me the best values. And I'm referring to values, I'm referring to essentially at this time I was fitting the action with the bolt closed against the go gauge and using a feeler blade between the shoulder and the face of the action in order to tell kind of how much gap, therefore how much I needed to cut before I could close that gap. So We'll see in the next clip. I went with just that method, gave up on this type of measuring.
If we have a look, a little bit loose on 22, 25 does not fit, so I'm assuming 23 thou is what we actually need to go. So let's set her back up. Carriage back to 0. Tailstock back close. Reamer lubricated. Two. Go 22, see what it does. And let's thread it back on. Seems that we have grabbed ever so slightly. And we will close. So now the question is, did I overshoot it? Let's find out. So I have a piece of 3 thou shim stock. I place on the back of our go gauge, place it on the bolt, and we'll be able to get an idea that way. If it closes, well, we're 3 thou bigger. It does not. We are not 3 thou taller. So we got a piece of our 2 thou shim stock in there. Try this again. Put our go no go gauge in. That is a very tight bolt close. So probably within 1 thou.
So there we have it. The rifle is chambered. We'll check again once the barrel is installed and torqued, but there it is.
And now we are going to deburr and what I like to call cross hatch the chamber. Got some 220 with some oil on it, just taped to the end of a artist's brush, a little bit of tape to form a little bit of a ball end to better get in the nooks. I'm Derek, and that was part 3 of the Precision Rifle Garage Build Series. Stay tuned for part 4 for where we install the barrel and do a few finishing touches. Thanks for watching.